It is the must-attend CTE event of the year. That's right, everybody involved in CTE, over 6,000 attendees are here at CareerTech Vision 2022. Compliments of the Association for Career and Technical Education. We are the Tech Ed Podcast. We're live streaming on YouTube. My name is Matt Kirkner, and I am your host for this and every episode. It is awesome to have you with us. We've learned so much already in the last couple of days about career and technical education. Our next discussion is going to be no different. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it's been fantastic to be here. Walked down the strip here a couple times 2 days ago, and then again yesterday, and it's an amazing place. I mean, if you've never been to Las Vegas, just the magnitude of what goes on here, the magnitude of the buildings, the hospitality, the hotels, amazing restaurants. We've had some phenomenal meals here. We're going to talk in just a little bit about hospitality, about restaurant management, and so on with our guest. But we're going to get into a few other things before we do that. Our guest for this episode of the Tech Ed Podcast is Xue Xing. Xue is the Associate Professor and Program Coordinator of Career Technical Education Post-Secondary Education at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, also known as UNLV. Xue, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Matt. It's my pleasure.
We're going to have a really interesting conversation. I'm so fascinated by your background, the work that you're doing on a couple of different fronts. I want to start with this one. You've been really integral in this development of 2 new master's degree programs in workforce education leadership and professional training and development at UNLV. So start by telling our audience a little bit about those programs.
Yeah. We have been serving mostly career technical educators, prepare them to become teachers, induct them, and get the training they need for them to be competent in classroom. But we realized we also have so much more to offer from our program. So this past year, I developed these 2 new directions. One is a workforce education leadership that focuses on physical management, human resources, program administration, and another one is an interdisciplinary program with professional training and focus. So that one, we collaborate with education technology, providing instructional design and learning management system, those pieces into our degree system. I want to mention one thing I found really proud of developing this program is we actually leverage the resources we have from community. This originally started with a conversation with the Governor's Office of Workforce Innovations, and they were showing a very awesome platform they had at the time, which is called MZ at the time, now which is a Lightcast. And they were showing what this platform can do for collecting data from our local labor market from Southern Nevada, and then they have actually collected the information from the employer side, what they need and what they're looking for, and then they have the employees or applicants who are applying for a job, then what skills they have. And I was when I look at this platform, I was like, what can we do from it?
Okay.
And I was thinking, hey, can you play here and there? And we play with the system a little bit. And then we did, and we get some data. And I said, okay, how about we use this as a data-informed approach to develop this curriculum? So I identified 2 sets of, we call the SOC, which is the occupational, it's like an ID for occupations.
Okay.
SOC code.
Sure.
And then we identified one is the SOC for the professional training development. They are training specialists or training managers. And then we put the code in it, and we match the jobs that's all tied to this field. And we suddenly get this data saying that, hey, these are the desired skills that are looking for from our employers.
Okay.
And on the other side, these are the skills the progression of changes over time of the job competencies evolving over years. And then there are also a labor market, how big this need in our local market. And we found there are currently no one higher education offering a very rigorous program on professional training and development.
Huh.
So we use that data, inform our curriculum decision process, and develop that program that match what the employers are looking for right now.
I love that data-driven approach, right? And in this day and age when we're talking so much about things like grant funding and outcomes and actually determining whether or not the work that we're doing is achieving the desired result, you're taking that data, you're analyzing it, you're using a platform, understanding how the competencies in the world of workforce and in the world of work are changing over time, and then using that to influence this program. Any insights that came from that data specific to how the world of work or the expectations of employers are changing?
Yes, they're definitely more towards the technology, right?
Okay.
Technology definitely impact every aspect of our life. And so we get to see like their updates of the learning platforms we use, and then more interactive learning methods we apply in the classroom, right? To keep the students or the adult population groups motivated throughout the time. So.
Fantastic. So who are the students that would come into a program like Workforce Education Leadership, a master's program? Obviously, they've got a bachelor's degree of some sort as they're coming into your program. Who are the individuals that would be inspired toward a degree like that?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Actually, this shows another diversifying strategy behind what we designed this concentrations of program, because like you can see, like we have for the career technical teacher education prep track, and that we attract the teachers or those professionals from industry who want to become teachers.
Okay.
And then for the professional training development track, we try to recruit those who actually work in corporate settings and who are in charge of the employees, professional development, onboarding, job training, and upskilling. Those individuals who design the curriculum for them. And for the leadership part, we try to focus on those who already being teacher or already in the professional training session, but want to move up to the administration. So
Okay.
we'll provide the leadership and administration skills for them.
Got it. Give me just an example or two of some of the content of the degree program. What are the individuals learning as they're upskilling themselves and creating this new level of talent for other jobs?
Yeah, so the emphasis of our programs at UNLV specifically has have a concentration in curriculum instruction. So that means like many of our discussion and the courses are focused around how to develop a curriculum, and what are the various methods of teaching in this workforce ed training. And then we use that and apply it to different groups, and then they present differently. So for example, if a high school teacher come, and then their population they serve are the younger minor students, and then we will target it more like a motivational experiential learning to them. But for those who are in the corporate training world, then the people they're serving are adults, right?
Sure.
So in that case, like we really need to figure out like what these adults need, right? Why they come to the program. There's a motivation behind it. Then what we can do to help them achieve what they want to achieve. I think that's so critical for adult learning piece.
For sure, and you think about, as we're just spending time here at the CareerTech Expo at ACTE CareerTech Vision and seeing all the advancing technologies, we're really living in a world now that is moving so fast. And if you think about even an educator 20, 30, 40 years ago, certainly had a lot to know, but the world wasn't changing quite as quickly. And now we're living in this world where in manufacturing we have Industry 4.0, in the world of hospitality and restaurant management, we're going to talk about that in a minute. You've got more and more connected systems, more and more technology being used to deliver the customer experience. And so to be able to remain relevant in that kind of a world, it really is a lot different than it was 20, 30 years ago. And so having a education community that understands how that's changing in these competencies that you're equipping these individuals with to know how to change education for, as one example, that you produce the incumbent workforce and people that are already in the workforce. Really, really important work that you're doing. So I commend you for that. It's fascinating.
Thank you so much. Speaking of updating with the skills, right? Right now I'm actually collaborating with Nevada Workforce Connections, which is a regional industry connector to the education piece. And then working with the Clark County School District, which is the largest district where our community residents in. And so we're actually exploring a teacher externship model.
Okay.
So that means like we try to, so for teachers who are in CT classroom, they already, maybe some of them already near retiring stage, and then come to teach for a few years, but the field is constantly changing. And we bring them, so for the purpose of this is we bring them back to the industry. We connect with industry partners so that they can provide this kind of training experience for them, and the teacher get updated with the skills that's present at the moment, and then bring that back to the classroom.
Absolutely. We actually had the assistant curriculum coordinator for the Clark County School District down with us yesterday morning. Fascinating conversation, and yeah, to your point, huge district, right? Fifth largest district, I think, in the country.
Exactly.
300,000 students. I think he has some like 50 high schools and 50 middle schools in that district. It's almost overwhelming, and you get to work pretty directly with that district, it sounds like.
Yeah. We work closely with personnel who in the career technical education field.
Well, at least we have 300,000 people from which to upskill and draw people into the world of career technical education. Really, really important here in Nevada. One of the things that I think is really important to this region as well is the whole, it almost goes without saying, restaurant, hospitality market. It's got to be one of the largest concentrations of both restaurants and hospitality in the country, and you're able to work right in that space. So we often talk to guests here on the Tech Ed podcast about things like advanced manufacturing and industrial trades markets, so on. You're doing some interesting work in this space of career pathways for hospitality and restaurant management. Tell us about that.
Okay. So this is a project, actually, this started this year. The idea just clicked when I met this professor from hospitality, which just got hired because Panda Express donated $5 million.
Wow.
For that, for multi-unit restaurant management.
Huh.
So and what we're trying to do is we see there's a missing opportunity. So currently there are over 13% of local labor market actually are in the food service industry in Las Vegas area. And that is a large number.
Huge.
But most of these people, they only make like I would say federal minimum poverty line, barely meet that. So for food industry, then there's where you see who the waiters you see, and those who work in the restaurant, and the most of profit job of this is the cook and the chef, and they would make a little over the 2 times of poverty line.
Okay.
But on average, this group of people only make like about $30,000 per year, which is barely can keep up the inflation and everything, the cost of living. So what we identified that there's a missing of this pathway for these people to move up their career-wise, right? So let's say we can look at maybe take the example from Panda Express. So there, if we can train one person from food servicing to assistant manager of the restaurant, and this person can just make $65,000, which is a $35,000 increase in salary.
Wow.
And then there's a continual trajectory moving up from assistant to manager and to regional manager if it's a multi-unit, right? So it's a franchise restaurant, and then a chain of the restaurant. And then you could be regional and even the headquarters. Then you would make a very, very profitable career out of this.
Yep.
And I feel like we're missing this piece in it because whoever comes to the restaurant management, they are completely from a different pathway. But the most people we are working, like 13% of the local population working in food service, they don't have a way to move up. And this is very concerning. So the purpose of this program is we're trying to offer this training to them. And they can do in a very short summer term boot camp. And then they will get the skills they need to be competent in those manager positions, and then we'll train them the mindset and the confidence as well to be able to manage those administrative roles what they require.
I really love that. We talk a lot, as I mentioned in the last question, about the world of industry and manufacturing on the Tech Ed podcast, and we'll think about somebody starting in an entry-level manufacturing job, then maybe becoming a machine operator, and then they're a supervisor, and then maybe they're a shift supervisor, all the way up to, at some point, if they want to, owning or running the entire organization. And the analogy I'm drawing, or the correlation I'm drawing, is really you're trying to do or doing that exact same thing in the restaurant market. So you think about somebody starting in the front of the house as a maybe they're just running a cash register, not just, but they're at the front of the house of the restaurant, or a waitress or a waiter. Really, really valuable work that they're doing, but to your point, maybe not earning the money that they would like to, and creating the future for themselves that they would like to. So then you create this program where they can become a restaurant supervisor or a restaurant manager, or move to the corporate office and continue to advance themselves and create a better life for themselves and their family. And that's got to be, being a part of a program like that, it's got to be really rewarding for you, I would think, to see some of these individuals that have advanced. And is that fair to say?
Yeah, I feel very proud of doing this work, and I feel like this is what I envision, like a program at UNLV is moving forward, is to really to bring value to our community, really to see what is what our communities are need at the time, and how this needs has been evolving and changing, and how we can help in the process, in the workforce development piece and the trainer piece of that.
So bringing value to the community is so very important. The other thing I'll tell you, Share, that I'm really impressed by is your use of data. So I can tell that you love data, right? And
I'm a totally quantitative person.
I love it. I live in that world myself, and so 13% of people working in this space within the market and understanding the poverty line and the compensation levels and the opportunities for them to double their salary. So it's refreshing for me. And I think education is moving more and more in that direction, but to hear the data-driven approach that you have to what it is that you're doing. So it's fascinating, and you're using that data to, as you put it, improve your community. I know another aspect of improving our community that you've been really, really involved with is your efforts to add DEIA, that is diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, into the CTE teacher training programs at UNLV. So I want to explore that a little bit. How has your personal experience and viewpoint impacted this work, and what changes are you trying to influence in DEIA in the future with regard to CTE?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I personally have evolving understanding of the topic around this area, because actually I originate from a different country. I'm from China, and which the demographics are completely different. And comparing here, so when I moved here, at first I didn't really understand, like the challenges faced by different groups of people, like given how our system and society have been set up. But while I'm being in the education field, and I've get to fortunate to make so many friends from different diverse backgrounds, and I get to hear their stories. Then get to learn their own personal journey navigating through a process. So let's say, actually, I have a friend in our department. We would sometimes just exchange the ideas, like how we see and how we experience what has been happening. And sometimes we find it very interesting that even though the same event occurs, we would have different interpretations of it. And we will have different challenges navigating this process, because that given our own personal background, and that's may tie to how we appear, right, where we come from. So personally, that impact me and driven me to do this work on this topic.
So if you think about it, is there a specific example that you can give our audience where you're saying these two individuals are looking at the same event differently? Is there something that comes to mind when you think about that? Because everyone's experience is very different. So I would, so for example, I can give an example a while back. Actually, I was, when I was in grad school, and this is where I started to get know about this topic. I get to know someone actually from a black male from Detroit. And he would tell me his journey basically moving up is basically just go from one foster family to another foster family all the way. And his own journey, most of the time his parents were absent because either they were in jail or they are not there anymore because of they passed away of the drug use, or that caused a heart attack or things like that. Wow, that's sad.
It is very sad, and I will get to learn about educational journey these individuals have to go through along the way. And there's a metaphor sometimes we use in education is the ladders, right? So everyone this education journey is supposed to be a ladder for you to go up, and then but do everyone start the same line? Of course no. They don't start the same line. Some on the ground, and this is some even, in a hole, right? That's underground. And so for in terms of the equity, what do we provide to them, really to help them minimize the challenges they have, and then really helping them with the with the education and providing them with equip them with the resources then for them to move forward.
And it seems to me like in the last several years that we're at least starting to bring some light to some of these challenges, and it feels like, and I'd be interested in your input, but it feels like we're making a little bit of progress, at least in terms of, if not fixing the problem, helping people understand the nature of it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I think if we think about the history of vocational education, right? Originally, we are serving this group of individuals. We're
Sure.
serving underrepresented individuals who are challenged in achieving high academic scores, not because they are not smart enough, but mostly because they are not equipped with the resources they need
Sure.
to be successful. So we actually have a long history working and serving for this group of population. However, because we didn't see that as a problem back then, and we didn't really have a very comprehensive I would say framework to tackle the problems around diversity, equity, inclusion, access in career technical education. So I think the purpose of developing this course is really to engage community, the expertise from other fields to contribute in this discussion, and then hopefully we can come up with something that's more comprehensive, and that includes the inclusion of demographic, variance, diverse populations. Also, for example, students from rural areas, socioeconomic status variance, right? And students with special needs, and how we can support them in the career technical education field. Because when you think about if we train someone a skill, and what would the equity look like in training a skill, right? So, for example, if I'm an immigrant and I come to this country, and one of the most challenges I have is perhaps vocabulary, right? If I don't understand what these machines called and what's the operation procedures, then how would I be able to operate them?
Sure.
So perhaps for this individual, the priority is to provide that vocabulary and English support, and to close that gap first, and before we can talk about move forward. So when thinking about this word, there's a lot. I think my knowledge is evolving as well. So that's why I think the community approach is going to be effective, because we're going to bring voices from different people.
Voices from different people listening to a lot of different ideas. I love the correlation that you draw between CTE and DEIA, because I agree with you. I mean, when we think about giving people workforce skills, helping people who are maybe in one job, as we discussed earlier, upskill themselves into positions of more responsibility, greater compensation. That is a huge part of, I think, addressing some of the DEIA challenges that we have here in the United States. It feels like we're making progress, rather. Still much work to be done on this front, and I appreciate your efforts there as well. The other thing I'd appreciate hearing about, Cher, is some of the things that you've seen here at CareerTech Vision. There's so many, 300 plus different concurrent sessions going on. We've got 200 exhibitors here on the CareerTech Expo floor. It's been fascinating to see all the folks walking through, 6,000 attendees in total, even more than that, experiencing all these new technologies, learning about best practices in career technical education. As you look back on the last several days here at ACTE, what's something that sticks out to you that you've learned?
I think it definitely this is a very inclusive platform, because at this conference that you will see our industry partners, you will see these advanced technology companies, right, providing like software education technology to be used in classroom. Then you will see secondary teachers, post-secondary, and which includes community college professors and like traditional 4-year, like me, some who has a more research focus. So you see administrators, and you see our community members in this. I just feel like it's really, that tells something.
For sure.
6,000 people coming,
right?
And for the huge event like this, I feel like they must find something that they can identify with.
Exactly.
And I feel I think that's important, because as an association like this, in career technical education, which is really a collective effort, because no one piece can do the job.
For sure.
And like we really need to put everyone on the same table together and talking about what are initiatives, how can we tackle it, how can we leverage resources, right, from your side and from my side, and then try to solve the problem. So I think is really to own it, right? Own this association and really see yourself into it and where you can contribute to it.
Absolutely. Own the association in true Xue Xing fashion. Add some data to it probably, right? So we can analyze some of that information, quantify what it is that we're seeing here. And I agree with you. As we've been here in the podcast booth and in the studio all week, just seeing the wide array of people that are coming by. I mean, and it's everything from we've had superintendents, career technical education coordinators, we've had principals, a lot of CTE teachers that I've seen here, and then you get into the the technical college presidents and the technical college vice presidents of academics, instructors, deans. It's just such a wide array of individuals from all over the world, and certainly from all over the United States. I mean, I don't know that there's probably a concentration here in the western part of the country, just given geographically where we are, but it's been such a huge wide array of people here sharing best practices and trying to understand how we can continue to move career technical education forward, and we've had so many interesting discussions, this one included. We're about to wrap up with one last question for Xue Xing, who is the Associate Professor and Program Coordinator of CTE Post-Secondary Education at UNLV, and it's a question, Xue, that we ask every single guest here on the Tech Ed Podcast. If you had advice for 15, 16-year-old student, a high school sophomore, as they're thinking about what their future looks like, what would that advice be?
I would really tell them, explore the careers. Explore the careers to find what you're passionate about, and then pursue that. Do not settle for anything that's for anything less or anything like you feel doubt about it. Really to continue searching, and for some people this journey is more direct and they quickly find it. For the other people, they have been taking different pathways and try different things. But no matter what, you only live once, and try to find something you're really passionate about and
Absolutely.
do that.
I love it. Find something you're passionate about that you can do for at least a period of time, if not the rest of your life, and spend that time exploring. We've explored so many interesting topics here on the Tech Ed Podcast with Xue Xing, including talking about how we educate the next level of master's degreed workforce faculty and educators. That was a really interesting conversation. Our conversation around DEIA and our conversation around the hotel and restaurant management world and how we upskill this next generation of individuals working in that field to create a better life for themselves. Just a really interesting conversation that we've had here with you, Sharon. I really appreciate you coming on.
I really appreciate you. Thank you for inviting